Hey, do you guys like free stuff? Well, I mean, of course, not completely free, but maybe 20% free. My sponsors have been gracious enough to give Last in Line listeners 20% off with the code Last in Line. So I want to thank our sponsors, Gridiron Coffee. I want to thank Armored Coffee. I want to thank Lead Like Lions. I want to thank our sponsor, Do Work That Matters. And last but not least, I want to thank our guys at Cowboy Revolution Apparel. So thank you guys to our sponsors for supporting Last in Line leadership. Go get you some stuff. Go get you some gear. Last in Line discount and get 20% off. Now back to the show. Hey, what's up, everybody? Glad to come to you today with another episode. And if you can't see on YouTube, if you're not on YouTube, you won't understand this, but I am absolutely overpowering you with Last in Line logo today. The shield, the hat, the flag, the helmet. It is all about Last in Line merch today. Only one of which can you buy on the website, the hat right here, and bringing some camo ones as well. Some green Army camo snapbacks. Hopefully you guys will like those, and hopefully they jump off the shelf. But today, I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about defense winning championships. And I know it's not football season, but maybe for those of you who can't wait for August and September for the pigskin to fire back up again, this is a little teaser for you to wet your whistle in the framework of a football analogy. So defense does win championships. I agree. Contrary to popular belief and how the offenses have evolved over the last couple of years and the just kind of run and shoot, run and gun, slinging it all over the field, scoring 50 points in the NFL. Never thought we would hear of that, but now it's commonplace. So we're going to go back to basics and talk about defense. And I know a lot of my episodes lately, or a lot of my reels lately, if you're keeping up, have been a little bit reflective of my personal life and what I'm going through right now, what my wife and I are going through with some extended relationship, people kind of thing type person that we're dealing with. And so we're playing a lot of defense in relationships. And so it got me thinking, there are relationships and people in your life that you either chose to be there or didn't, but you sort of have to commingle and hopefully not cohabitate, but you have to interact on a regular basis with these people. And a lot of those times where it's not pleasant, you are on the defense in the relationship. I'm all about playing offense in just about every area of my life, which means to say proactive, intentional, somewhat aggressive, sometime assertive might be a better word. But in relationships, when you can't just knee-jerk reaction, fly off and go on the offense, you might have to play strategic defense sometimes and react to other people because you can't control what they do or say, their response, their reaction, their actions. So we have to sort of be on the defensive in certain things, and that's not bad as long as we're strategizing and we're figuring things out, how to flip it and become offensive as it relates to our life and sort of the action we can take that benefits us. So, boy, that was a long way of saying what I'm about to talk about today, but I had to lay the groundwork for you. Today is called Crazy Eight. And the eight is ATE because these three words I'm going to talk about in regards to playing defense in relationships is they all end in the letters ATE. But Crazy Eight, right? We're basically navigating through the chaos of relationships who decide they want to what? Dominate, manipulate, intimidate. Those are the three that I've chosen. There might be others. These three came to me. So I felt like God is sort of leading me in this direction. He kind of put that on me. I don't just sit around and think about stuff like that. I'm not that clever or that smart. So I feel like I'm following what God wants me to say today. I hope you're with me and I hope you can relate. Unfortunately, too many of us can probably relate to these kind of toxic relationships or people in our life that maybe we have to not necessarily tiptoe around, but we got to be on guard on how we proceed and interact. So the 3 8s, right, as the crazy part of the 8s would be dominate, manipulate, intimidate. So I'm going to go through these in order, and I'm sure I'll go off on some sort of rabbit trail, and hey, you'll go with me, and we'll go on a hike. But hopefully, I stay on point today. Dominate is going to be the first one, right? We all know what that means, and we all know those people who feel like they can sort of impose their will on us. I almost feel like it's this forceful power play, I guess, is this dominate, right? We see in football, we see teams who dominate. That means the other teams can't do really anything of any significance on the offensive or defensive side of the ball because that team, the other team, is just too dominant, right? It's a mismatch. They're overpowering in ways that the other team cannot overcome. And so this forceful power and authority that comes with domination. It's just basically someone in your life that may be just imposing their will on you because they just sort of have this upper hand that you can't seem to counteract on an equal playing field. It's all about to the people who try to dominate others. It's all about just sort of engulfing somebody in this lopsided influence that they might have over them because maybe they're older, maybe they're just bigger in stature, physically stronger, maybe they're in a position of authority that dominates that other person, and it's sort of a helpless feeling on the receiving end of that relationship. And so the interaction becomes this setting of domination. And when someone is trying to dominate us, what do? Well, I feel like if, to the football analogy, we can't always just go tit for tat, blow for blow, right? Mano a mano sometimes because we may just not have that physical capability. But what I think we can do, and I'll even use like the Rocky metaphor, like it's clear that in Rocky IV, Ivan Drago could have dominated Rocky in the standard customary way of just going muscle to muscle, toe to toe. But Rocky decided he was going to just outlast and out-heart and outsmart the Russian. Otherwise, just toe to toe in the center of the ring, you saw the Russian could throw a punch of X amount of pounds and it could just crush a human skull probably with one punch. So Rocky to go blow for blow was going to be not a wise move because the Russian would have dominated him. He was physically bigger, stronger, that kind of thing, powerful. But Rocky decided to go mental to wear him down, to stay consistent, to just dig deep and have a little more heart. And he outlasted the Russian and then eventually could use his physical ability. So in our lives, when we're dealing with those relationships that try to dominate us, we can't stand toe to toe with some of those folks. It's not a pissing contest at that point because that person can probably outpiss us if they're dominating us or in a position that they could dominate us. So what we've got to do is turn the tables, figure out strategically to use our mind, to use maybe other relationships, utilize our network to, create a more advantageous environment for us in a situation where you have to go up against this person and have to create influence against someone you ordinarily wouldn't have influence with. So it becomes more of a mental play, becomes more of a strategic play. It becomes more of a outlast this person play. Maybe we just got to be patient and let them feel like they're winning. I've had to do that in this personal thing that I'm talking about that we've gone through. We've had to sort of appease certain egos and outlast the process and make somebody feel like they were winning when we had the ace in the hole. We've got a couple aces in the hole that we haven't even played yet, but we're finding out that we just have to outlast, let them feel dominating, and then we come in with more of a strategic, smart, thought out, tactical approach. I think that works. I think it translates translates in business, translate not only in relationships, translates in parenting with your kids. You know, not that your kids would ever dominate you, but talking about how if you have a situation that maybe you're outside your boundaries in and you don't know how to really navigate that parenting water, maybe you turn it into this, okay, it's a strategy. We've got to be strategic in how we, of course, I could just tell them what to do and say, this is why, but maybe there's a way to be strategic and sort of, I don't know, massage the situation into a teachable moment. And maybe parenting's a bad example, but I'm just trying to correlate that it's a mind game when there's domination involved, right? We can't always be as physically equal. We can't always be as powerful as somebody else, or our authority may not match. So we've got to figure out other creative, mindful, strategic ways to approach the interaction and approach the negotiation, the confrontation, hopefully, God forbid. But so that's dominate. Maybe somebody here listening's getting dominated. Maybe you found yourself as being the one that maybe you go to that card, that you play that hand of, I'm going to dominate here. Maybe that's your first reaction. Maybe you need to flip the script and think differently about how you treat other people sometimes. But if you're on the receiving end of the dominate scenario, hopefully those tactics help you a little bit. So the second one's manipulate. We all know that manipulation is fairly rampant. I mean, you can see on social media, people manipulate the algorithms. People manipulate what you can and can't say. People manipulate. So they have this, there's a skillful deception that I equate to manipulation. Like, I don't know that I've ever used this to describe a person's personality in a positive way. Like, every time I say that person's manipulative or they seem like they're trying to manipulate a situation, it's never a positive scenario. Now, I'm sure there's some context where manipulate is positive, but here we all know that in relationships, if manipulation is involved, somebody's going to lose. Somebody's going to get the short end of the stick. And a lot of times it's a skillful deception on one of the parties' part. And I'll take it back to my personal situation. And we're starting to see that there was a lot of manipulation involved with our family member and this other person. And, there was a lot of, I guess it's obviously this way that somebody can coerce in an unassuming coercion, but they can manipulate situations, words, mind games to get their desired outcome from those people who maybe feel less adequate, right? It could be actually downstream of the first one we talked about, dominate. So domination can actually probably lead to more manipulation because that person who dominates can manipulate the weaker vessel. And it's sort of it's a spiral downward. It's a domino effect in that relationship. So manipulation, like, I feel like it's a cunning way to coerce somebody into your desired outcome. And manipulation is all over, like I said. And I don't know, maybe you feel like you are in a relationship with your boss. Maybe they feel like they can manipulate you by idle threats. You hear about the subtweet. If somebody subtweets you, they're sort of passive aggressively dropping this little hint that might manipulate your behavior into what they want it to be based on this thing hanging over your head that they're, that's coming at you. They definitely orchestrate their own initiative or agenda during that manipulation. So the person who manipulates definitely has an agenda, definitely has a reason, definitely has a plan to get you to do something that benefits them. Rarely, if ever, does someone who manipulates somebody else do it for that other person's benefit. That sounds pretty straightforward, right? Like, no duh. So I don't know. We've all probably been guilty of manipulating people directly, indirectly, intentionally, unintentionally. We I'm in sales. We could get real technical and say that sales is a fancy, professional, legal, ethical way of manipulating someone to change a buying behavior. And it is based on facts and benefits of a product or service, obviously. But yeah, I share facts because I want to manipulate the way they think about either a competitor's product or my product, and hence them go the direction of purchasing mine. So I don't know if manipulation really works in that context, but I will say that could technically be used there. But the way I'm using it is an unhealthy manipulation. You get it, I know. But do you have anybody in your life trying to manipulate you? God forbid, is your spouse, does it seem like they're manipulating you by the way that they are passively aggressively not talking to you in the morning because of something you did last night? You went and hit golf balls at the range with your buddy instead of going to the grocery store. So the next morning it's a silent treatment. Is that manipulation? Is that one of those things they're trying to passively aggressively kind of get you to apologize? There's different ways, and that's an example, but you guys know what manipulation is. But that is a way we have to be on defense in relationships if we're going to manage the crazy 8 that is manipulate. Um, like I said, it's just an unassuming coercion that sometimes you don't see coming, which is part of the tactic of the manipulator. It's almost camouflaged coercion. Like I said, it's camouflaged to where you don't feel like someone's dominating you, but you feel like, okay, they're wording it in a way that I almost have to do this. I almost have no choice but to behave or say this based on what they've done or said. And that's going to give them the outcome that they were desiring in the first place. So it's just creative. This manipulation is just a creative coercion to orchestrate their own agenda. And I hope if you have somebody in your life that's doing that, it's time to call them out on it. It's time to get down to brass tacks and be eye to eye, face to face, not on text, not on social media. Let's talk about it. Let's be open. Let's be transparent. Find out why they're doing it, because it's clear that they are. It's not about you needing them to own it or to admit it. Yeah, they need to own it, but they, whether they admit it or not, it's happening. But we need to call them out and be like, look, this doesn't work on me. It's what we had to do in this situation I'm talking about. I keep going back to it, and hopefully my next couple posts or podcasts are going to be a little more positive, but we're right in the trenches of this situation for the last couple of weeks, and we're on the defensive a lot. I think the tides are turning, but I just wanted to kind of relate to you my personal life, because even, people that stand on the other side of this microphone don't have it perfect, don't have everything lined up. Everything's not roses and rainbows. So I want you to know kind of what's going on in my life, and kind of open the doors for you to see and maybe get better. Like maybe this helps you. Maybe you improve in your relationships because you hear what's going on here. But we started to be kind of manipulated, but then we spotted it. Like we've got this red alert. We've got this alarm that goes off inside of us. And hopefully you do too, which is why I'm saying you should confront that person. If it's your boss, man, there's a way to talk about it in private, get into, a personal, professional relationship or conversation that's tactful, that's thought out, that's professional. It's, there's diplomacy there, but it's time to stop being the victim of this manipulation. And then the last one I would say is intimidate. All of these tie together, of course. And the dominate, leads to obviously the intimidate and the manipulate, but intimidate here, like I said, these are in no particular order, but intimidate, that's more about that other person, I think. Like these other ones have been, I think more about what they want from us, of course, but the intimidate component, I believe, says a lot about their insecurity. It's about how they can make themselves feel better. These other ones just produce an outcome and an action that benefits. This one here, intimidate, if you recognize this, it might disarm the situation, and it might enable you to cut it off before it seeps in, sinks in to your spirit and affects you long term about yourself and how you think. But it's about them and their insecurity. Anybody that feels like they've got to intimidate another person is very insecure human being, if you ask me. They need to feel that, right? They need to intimidate so that they can feel like they can dominate and then manipulate. But it's a defense mechanism. I have no doubt it's a defense mechanism. When they want you to fear them, first of all, when a football player stands over another one after he's just delivered a blow to that guy, they've just had a collision and one guy won and stood up over him and kind of, you see his head bobbing, he's jawing, he's talking smack. Like he's intimidating that guy and he's letting him know, don't come back down this road again because you're going to fear me and you're going to get the same thing. So that's intimidation. If that running back or quarterback or whoever was to take the bait on that intimidation, they wouldn't want the ball anymore, at least not to the side of the field where that guy's going to be. But no, these guys are trained to go right back in it for that same collision. But intimidation in relationships, I think you would agree, it's unhealthy. It's completely toxic. It's completely cancerous. Nobody wins. In fact, that relationship will dissolve eventually if that party doesn't fix what they're doing. If they don't stop trying to be intimidating, but they got to get right with themselves. That's about insecurity. The person I'm dealing with right now, their tactics of intimidation are feeble. They're very futile. They're weak, but nonetheless, they are attempts to intimidate. They're laughable because he's a worm, right? He's a worm. He's a maggot. But he tries, but it's all about him. It's all about his insecurity. It's all about his fears. It's all about, but he wants to transfer those to me or to us, not to me, but to us or to the situation that we're a part of. But what I found is this bully tactic that is intimidation. Once you punch a bully in the face, they don't they don't try to bully you much anymore, do they? Like if you've ever had that situation, if you've ever stood up to a bully, I bet you got out of the situation that the bullying stopped. I bet. I would really bet that happened. So in this intimidate, we step up into the face of that potential bully or whoever they think they are, and we call them out, and we stand firm, planted in the face of that, because we need to, not on my watch is what our stance needs to be. And it comes out real quick that it's all about their insecurity. It's all about them biting off more than they can chew. It's their bark is bigger than their bite is what you find out most times. That translates into life as a kid. Like if your kid's getting bullied, that's a conversation to have. It's all about that other person's insecurity. They're definitely trying to overcompensate for something. I don't know what it is. Maybe if they feel inferior or inadequate from an intellectual standpoint, maybe they're dumb as rocks, but they feel like they can overcompensate by intimidating somebody, and it covers up their vacancies in their brain, or maybe they've got a toxic dark heart, maybe they're a terrible human being, I don't know, but the intimidation covers all that up. The intimidation is like this black curtain that hides all their skeletons, all their fears, all their insecurities, inadequacies, areas that they have really no competency in. They can mask that over by being the loudest, being the most forceful, supposedly, being the most intimidating, right? So they use this as a tool, as a bullying tactic, as just this way of overshadowing what the real issue is. And it basically is shifting it to you. You're the receiver. You're on the receiving end of their insecurities, right? And they're projecting that through what? Yeah, intimidation. And so that's where we get into the craziness of the crazy eights, which are the dominate, the manipulate, the intimidate. And those people that are out there on social media, you'll find if they're out there on social media, chances are it's either not even a real person, or they're, 50-year-old in mom's basement eating Cheetos, playing Xbox, like they're really no threat to the spider crawling across the floor. Like they're really nobody. So, but if you're dealing with these people in real time, real life, job, marriage, church, even, God forbid, or just extended family, whatever, these folks can be dealt with. Like we can step into the situation. We can use our head, like I said, with the the dominate. If you're overpowered in some other areas that are more tangible, get mindful, use your brain, get strategic, right? Incorporate some help, use your powers of consistency and outlast that person. And eventually you'll out-heart them, because a dark, toxic heart won't win in the end. You know that. So the next one, manipulate, just to summarize these, like, that manipulation is common, but it's time to recognize it. It's time to call those people out and have those conversations when you recognize they're manipulating you for their benefit. Okay. It's just a coercion. It's just this strategic, skillful deception. Don't let it happen. You're not the punching bag. So don't allow them to think you are, and to continue manipulating the situation. And then lastly, intimidate. You know what that is. Don't fall for it. It's about them. It's really, their problems are more about them than they are about you. And they're just projecting those on you. So understand that, get in the face of that. You won't be intimidated, right? Not on your watch. Let's let them know this isn't going to work. Let's try something else. You're not going to intimidate me. Let's have an adult conversation. Let's be grown-ups and let's think this through. We can resolve conflict without having to get intimidating, dominating, manipulating. We can get in the same room, have a conversation, and but understand that that's more about their insecurities and some of their lack of, you just fill in the blank. So I hope that helped you. Thanks for letting me process that. I promise I'm going to get through this season of dealing with this hard individual, this toxic environment that we're dealing with, and we'll have some sunny, happy episodes. But thanks for letting me get through this, because I think these are real world. I think you may have these going on more than you think. And I know there's a lot of people dealing with some of this stuff. So don't deal with the crazy eights. Fight back against them. Deal with them. Don't be dominated. Don't be manipulated. Don't be intimidated. With that, be blessed.